This is rainwater from the rain barrel at my cabin. And can I drink it? Well, as it is right now, it might be a little dicey, might have a little bit of an upset stomach. It's better to filter it. And that's what the subject of this video is. Water filtration, especially for those that live in remote places. Because if you live in the big city, most people really take for granted water. All you have to do is turn on the tap and it's probably fine. But if you camp, if you travel, if you live off the grid, then safe drinking water may be an issue. Now in the past, I did do a video on camp water filtration. I just sort of compared a few that were low cost and reached some pretty good conclusions. However, new news, which I just got, totally throws all that away. I had to start right over again because I found out there's something the manufacturers do not tell you. And I'm going to reveal what that is. But first, let's go back to that video to show you what I concluded in the past. What I typically do when I'm going on a camping trip is I take a big 6-gallon jug like this one by Reliance. It's 6 US gallons, and I fill it up with tap water. Even water provided at campsites may be dangerous this time of year. It's best to be prepared. So if you ran out of water, or if you're out in the woods for an extended period of time, that means you've got to use the water that's at hand from streams, rivers, lakes, and use a filtration system. So I would trust no water in the woods right now because anything that died in the last few months is probably rotting and going down the stream in bits and pieces. I've got something I've had for a long time, this little Lifestraw. It worked fine, but I think if possible, it's better to just put the water in a container first than crouch over a stream. Now, as far as versatility at a reasonable price goes, one has to consider the Miniwell portable water filter L630. But to be versatile, I needed to try it out in different ways. I had an old soda bottle I could use to hold water, and the Miniwell happened to incorporate the same thread in their design. Smart. But my preferred method of gathering water is with using a pail, especially if I want a larger amount of water and don't want to keep going back and forth to the stream. Gravity forces the water through a rubber hose to the drinking bottle below. So this means you always have clean water in your drinking bottle. Well, I think that's a pretty fair comparison because the water out here, certainly this time of year, is indeed suspicious. If you have to drink the water, you should filter it. But the one I liked the most definitely was the Miniwell because it does the same thing as the Lifestraw, but it's smaller, easier to fit in your pocket, and with the other features, you can use it on a bucket or a big bag, and yes, you can fill up all the water you need for camping. And if you're with a trailer as opposed to just going out on a day hike, that's important. By the way, if you're ever unsure of the water, even if it's filtered, there's a third thing you can do. Boil it. Now that video was over 2 years old, but when I was traveling in the trailer, I still used the same principle. Before I leave, I fill up my 6-gallon jug, and while I'm traveling, usually there's a gas station or a Walmart that I can fill it up when I'm on the road. It's only those really remote locations, especially if I'm there for longer than a few days, that I need to use the local water like stream water. So when I went to my southern trip a few months ago, last winter, I brought the same stuff. The jug, as well as the Miniwell in the pail and the Lifestraw. Now, I hadn't used these for probably a year. I did store them as per instructions. I flushed them out and made sure there was no issues with them. But when I went to use them last trip, neither of them worked. They were completely clogged up. I tried several ways of flushing them out. Nothing worked. Went online and tried to find if there's any other solutions. Somebody said something goofy like coconut water or something. Where am I going to find coconut water when I'm camping? No practical solutions, as well as it was a mystery. Why was nothing working? It just doesn't make sense. First of all, if you go on, and especially Lifestraw, it's supposed to be good for 1,000 gallons of water and 5 years supply. I probably put half a gallon through this, so it's not like it's been overused. And the same with the Miniwell. It probably saw maybe 5 or 10 gallons, a bucket, maybe 2, its whole lifetime. And so that's not justification. I was just baffled. I mean, why on earth are they no longer working? Now, the issue didn't come up again until the next time I went to camp, and I realized I hadn't resolved anything. Was it something I did? Was it something I didn't do? Was there some other factor I wasn't aware of? And while I was preparing, I got an email from a company who wanted me to try their product. I get these all the time, and I usually politely refuse because I like to be independent. However, this was an opportunity to ask some questions because they sold water filters. And so I explained my situation and how the other ones from other companies weren't working. And they pointed out one little detail, that their particular product had a temperature range. It was good from 1 Celsius to 40, or 34 degrees Fahrenheit to 104 degrees Fahrenheit. It had a temperature range, and you were not to use it below freezing. I mean, that was the eureka moment. Of course I was camping below freezing. I always do. Even in the summer there's a chance. And I've been to almost every state, and even in Florida it can go below freezing. And when I'm not using the trailer, I store my equipment in here, and it was certainly below freezing. So what I think happened is these filters, and they all seem to have been relatively the same, their principle was hollow fibers, like a fiberglass, hollow in the inside. If there's any moisture that's trapped in there and it goes below freezing, it expands and it destroys the filter. Now that seems like really, really important information, especially if your health and your life perhaps is dependent on whether that filter works. Why did I never hear this before? Now, before I cause worldwide panic to anybody who's ever used an outdoor water filter, just chill a little bit, because first thing, I can't really tell for sure why these filters failed. I'm not an expert. I'm just making an assumption that they probably froze, and that probably is why they're not working. But I'm not an expert at it. And as far as the companies that offer these products, I'm not saying they're covering up anything. On the contrary, most of them do have the information. Like, for example, Sawyer. Although they have nothing on the outside of the box about freezing, if you open it up, and hopefully I can get it open easy. Way at the bottom here, you got to dig for it, and I got to put my grandpa glasses on. It does say in the helpful hints and tricks, number 5, do not freeze your filter. The filter is safe from freezing temperature if it has never been used. And that's true with most of these filters. If they're dry, if you've never used them, there's no issue with freezing. It's only after use and there is water in them that there is an issue with freezing. And they do give you information that if it does get clogged up, you can use vinegar. So they are very helpful with that. And one of the selling features that I noticed is it says lifetime warranty right up here. But if you go to the website, it says there is no warranty for a filter that has been frozen. So you got to read the fine print and look around every once in a while to find this stuff. Now, because I've already opened the box, I might as well give a quick review of the Sawyer mini water filtration system as well. And it consists of the filter. And note there's a little arrow so that you know where the inlet and the outlet is. And this is the mouthpiece right here. Now, along with that is a straw, a plunger for cleaning it out, and what they call a bladder. But I'm not going to call that a bladder, because if I fill up my bladder with water, I'm not drinking what's coming out. I'm going to call it a pouch. The simple way of using this is to make sure that you know which end is which, and the flow goes this way, so on this side you put the straw. And the easiest way to use it is just to grab your dirty water, put the straw in, and it's not dirty anymore. Actually tastes pretty good. Now there's another way, there's several ways actually to use this. And the one they recommend, which I'm not really crazy of, is using the pouch, because you're supposed to fill the pouch with water, and that's kind of hard to fill in a lake. But it's the same thread as a regular disposable water bottle, so I'd use that instead. But in any case, it goes on the inlet like that. Once you've filled it up, tip it, and you can actually squeeze that to put a little bit more pressure to drink. That's okay. Now, when you're done with it, you use the syringe, and you just open that up, you put it on the end that's the mouthpiece, and you blow out the water, and you're ready for the next time. The main thing is this little filter here, because this is the part I'm most likely to take on hiking, because it fits in your pocket. That's what I like. So the big problem is, if you use something like this, or this, or this, how do you keep the moisture out so that you can store it below freezing? Well, that's the problem, because you can't open these up. So there is no guarantee that you've got all the water out of them. It's only ones that have a separate filter that you can make sure that they are dry. So really, the bottom line is, if you're using ones like this, especially the small ones, and you're out like in the winter time or when it's cold, make sure you keep them next to your body. Keep them warm, keep them in your sleeping bag at night. That way, there's no way they're gonna freeze. So okay, now I have new information. I got to do a little backtracking, because at the beginning of the video I said there's something the manufacturers are not telling you. Well, that's not exactly true, because some manufacturers are at least making the minimal requirements to tell you that their filters cannot be frozen. But that's not everybody. It certainly is okay with Sawyer, and Lifestraw kind of hints at it in a disclaimer. I think they should be a little bit out front, but there is one company, and I went to their instruction manual and I went to their webpage, and I found nothing. And that affects what I originally said was my best choice in that last water filtration video. So, Miniwell, which was the one I liked the most, is no longer my favorite, because they're not telling you that it could be compromised when it freezes. The best one now is the Sawyer, because they are up front. Now, I've cleared that up a little bit, but it doesn't solve my problem. As a matter of fact, it just makes things a little bit more complicated, because now when it gets cold out, I got to worry about my batteries, both for my camera and for my trailer. I've got to worry about the water that I've already filtered. I don't want it to freeze. And now I have to worry about the filter itself freezing. That just seems a little bit complicated. So I went online to see if there is another way which I can use with these filters and not worry about freezing, and it turns out there is. Now, all these filters use the same technology. They use hollow fiber filtration, and that's the problem, because the hollow fibers get wet and they expand, so you cannot use these below freezing. But there's another technology out there called ceramic filtration, which can. And I looked around and I found some look very, very promising, but they were extremely expensive. And because I was only interested in the low budget filters, I had to really search around, and I did find one company that did have a ceramic filter in their system. And the name of that company was RapidPure. Now, they offer a whole system of a bag and a filter and a hose, very close to what I used with the Miniwell. However, when I went to buy it, it was sold out. I could only buy the filter, and that's what I did. And you can see that this is entirely different. This is more like a filter you'd have in your house, you know, underneath the sink. And open, it's not encased, like the filter is right on the outside. And the packaging says it all. RapidPure water purification, ultra serum technology, 5 liters a minute flow rate, and most importantly, minus 20 Celsius rating. Now, since I didn't have the whole system and I still wanted to try it out, what did I need to make it work? And I came up with a new way of doing it because I went online and I found a collapsible fish pail. All I have to do is cut a hole in the bottom and I can make it work with this filter. Haven't done it yet, but that's what I'm going to do now. I'm using a Forstner bit, which is the same diameter as the thread, and I'm just going to nail dead center, and that'll dimple a spot. Now I can drill. Take off the nut and one washer. Put it through the hole. Washer in there. So here's the complete system. I've got the filter, I've got the fish bucket, and I didn't have a hose, but I rescued the hose from the Miniwell as well as that little clamp. But you could probably get vinyl hose at any hardware store and just use a clothespin. So, got this. I like the bucket concept because the bag you can't really scoop, but the bonus for my rain barrel is I can just put the handle right on the spout handle, make sure this is locked, and open up the valve. Well, I have a bucket of water, I've got a glass, and I've got a hose. Let's unclamp this and see how well it works. And the taste test. That is actually pretty good because not only does it have ceramic filtration, it has carbon filtration as well. Tasty, safe, delicious. So once you're done with the filter, ready to store it away, you just twist the bucket down, remove the hose, and unscrew the filter. Now the filter, the nice thing I like about this is because it's not encased, it'll dry quite easy. Put it out in the sunlight for a few minutes and it's probably going to be bone dry, and then you don't have any issues with storage. And if you actually use over 1,000 gallons, you may want to replace the filter, but the good thing is you're just replacing the filter. You don't have to replace the whole system. I kind of like it. I think I'm going to use it for the next little while until I find something else. I always find something else. I hope you enjoyed this video and check out my others as well. And I'm sure there'll be updates to water filtration in the future. And please check the video description for more details on these products. Now, if I could only find a filter that turns water into beer, that would be awesome.